Welcome back. I'm Brandon, the HBAR Bull, once again joined by Zepsi. We both do some contract work for the HBAR Foundation, but we don't do these weekly updates in any official capacity. We're just coming to you personally to give you the latest in the Hedera ecosystem. Welcome, Zep.
How's it going, Brandon?
Well, considering everything that's coming out of Token 2049, I'm doing really good. But as always, none of this is financial advice. Use it for entertainment or educational purposes only. So the first thing that came out, and this just came out several hours ago, is we have a new exchange listing in Bithumb. They're a large exchange out of Korea. I think they're number 13 in the world. And that market is really important, especially during bull markets. They get really hot. Do you have any thoughts around what we saw come out of this exchange listing?
The more exchanges we have, obviously, the better position we'll be in the future. And of course, we know that we're making these bets within the Asian continent on quite a big scale. You've got Shihan out there, Nomura, XSGD with StraitsX. There's a lot of innovation going on between Hedera and the continent of Asia. And so to have, I think, what is the biggest digital asset exchange in Korea come out and list HBAR is, a bullish indicator that they believe the volume's there, but also, I think, a strengthening of ties between us and that continent with Hedera.
Yeah, we're listed on almost all the major exchanges. There are a few holdouts, Kraken and Gemini, but those will come soon enough, I'm sure. We just got some other big news. Again, this is just a few hours ago that came out of Token 2049 around FIS Worldpay. So here's just a tweet from Brady. He said, end-to-end USDC settlements via Visa and MasterCard through WorldPay using stablecoins and proof of reserves provided by a new oracle through Hashport's Axiom. And of course, all of this is on the Hedera network. Now, here are some stats to give you an idea of who WorldPay is. Of course, they are one of Hedera's governing council members, but they are the #1 global payments processor. They process 40 billion annual transactions for a total volume of over $2 trillion in 60 domestic markets, over 126 different currencies. And, we're used to these kind of numbers, but normally in crypto, they aren't. They process on average about 1.2 thousand transactions per second for over 1 million different merchants. They are very active in the crypto space. They are the #1 global payments processor for the crypto sector as a whole. They did the very first card to crypto transaction in 2015, and they were the first to launch Apple Pay and Google Pay for crypto merchants. Now, Zep, I was lucky enough to get a couple of short clips from the actual event, and after we play those, we'll get your thoughts.
Obviously, it's transparent. I talked about that. But we've also got the Oracle dashboard. So obviously this whole ecosystem, particularly when it comes to stablecoins, is built around trust, which is something we're really trying to solve here. And so what we've also given them the ability to do is, in this reserve report, click on all the oracles that are working on Axiom, see who they are, when they joined, when their last transaction was, what their uptime is, etc. As validators get added or leave the ecosystem, they can monitor that and decide if they're comfortable with it or not. So it really gives our clients a level of visibility and transparency and detail into their settlement payments that you just can't get in the fiat ecosystem. Where it was transferred to and from, you can see the status of the validators on Axiom, that they validated the transaction, when it was created, when it was updated, and then you can drill down, download all the data, whatever you want.
The first thing, of course, is Hedera Governing Council member building. As they all should be, this is one that's been on the council for a while and bringing a real, tangible, real-world value use case that can really augment the entirety of the stablecoin market as it currently exists, particularly with USDC by Circle, which I think over time will become the institutional stablecoin of choice on a public ledger for a USD dollar stablecoin. And so in order for that stablecoin USDC to be adopted by the mainstream, i.e. fintechs and other institutions, it has to be as transparent as possible. We know this is at the core of their business model, is being transparent. Now, how can you make that even more transparent is if you bring their proofs of reserves on ledger, which is what we're seeing here with FIS Global. And so I don't know enough about this use case yet, but last week we saw that Solana was chosen by Visa for the USDC stablecoin. But if USDC want to make this as transparent as possible, they're going to have to use this proof of reserves mechanism in everything they do. So perhaps, and this is me of course speculating, I don't know for sure yet, but perhaps every single stablecoin, every single USDC stablecoin that goes through the Circle network will end up using this proof of reserve mechanism. And if that's the case, then Hedera will be used by every single stablecoin on the market, irregardless of the network, as sort of this trust layer, which is, of course, we know Hedera is set out to be.
Yeah, that's a good point to get clarified. I actually did get a quote as well from Rob Allen. So Rob said, "We are excited about this announcement for several reasons. It is an innovative use case from a Hedera Governing Council member solving a significant latency issue in the current payments infrastructure. It is the first Oracle on Hedera and complements our Stablecoin Studio as a proof of reserve service. And it's the first announcement from the Hashgraph Enterprise program, the first of many." So Zeb, the Hashgraph Enterprise program is starting to bear fruit for us. We're going to get some more thoughts from Rob, I'm sure, in the weeks to come on everything that's going on in this space. But there was another announcement that was put out by Hedera and Swirlds Labs on the Stablecoin Studio. And I wanted to touch on a few quotes that came out from some of the enterprises that are using the Stablecoin Studio. I know I'm going to go through a lot here, but I think these are important points to make. The first one comes from the chief of the blockchain division at Shinhan Bank, of course, one of Hedera's governing council members. He says Stablecoin Studio was a game changer for our successful stablecoin remittance pilot with SCB TechX and other financial institutions. The toolkit has made it incredibly convenient to send low-cost, cross-border payments. More partnerships like this can transform financial inclusion in Web3. The next one is from another Hedera Governing Council member, and it comes from the lead blockchain developer at Standard Bank. He says, stablecoins have the potential to bring a wide range of benefits to the banking industry, including stability, transparency, security, accessibility, liquidity, and more. Hedera's accelerator, Stablecoin Studio, can help project teams speed up development efforts considerably, increasing speed to market and allowing businesses to focus on delivering these benefits to their customers. The next one I have here is from Jewel Bank, and I actually hadn't heard this one before, and this one comes from the chairman of Jewel Bank. He says, as a digital asset-friendly bank, stablecoin issuer, and infrastructure provider, Jewel Bank is thrilled to be utilizing Stablecoin Studio to jointly accelerate the growth of the industry and our respective businesses. The enterprise-grade suite of components pre-built in Stablecoin Studio is helping us meet the huge demand for US dollar banking and stablecoin payments needs of our clients, as well as the broader Hedera ecosystem of enterprises. And the final one here comes from the Taiwan Blockchain Association. This is again one that we hadn't heard from in the past. The director of the association, Nicholas, says, "We were honored to stand as the sole Taiwanese participant in Shinhan Bank's stablecoin proof of concept on Hedera. This journey has been marked by true and relentless teamwork. We look forward to paving the way for the next stage of stablecoin development in the region, leveraging Hedera's groundbreaking Stablecoin Studio." All right, Zep, I know I had a lot of quotes there to go through, but again, those insights were invaluable, and I think it shows when you have this level of enterprise working with something and so impressed with tools like the Stablecoin Studio provides, it's something that has to be highlighted. But do you have any thoughts on this?
When you look at Web3, we're always in search of that killer dApp. What will bring the majority of Web2 into Web3? What will be that, that turning point where millions of users, hundreds of millions are onboarded, and everyone's looking for that killer dApp. But I really think that stablecoins are already that technology. They just need to be adopted on mainstream by these institutions. The killer app is there. It just needs to be built out, alongside regulations and other things. And the Stablecoin Studio is probably one of the first components for that, at least for Hedera, to really sort of drive, the value both of stablecoins and the Stablecoin Studio home. We need to just look within our ecosystem. We've seen time and time again with multiple pilots, Standard Bank, the biggest bank by assets in Africa, Shinhan Bank, the oldest bank in South Korea, what I think is now Cathay Bank, which I think was the largest institution in Taiwan that was in the last pilot, and beyond, have all tested stablecoins on Hedera and found that they are orders of magnitude more efficient, both against legacy payment systems in terms of cost, settlement times, traceability, and now even with real-time foreign exchange that we saw in the most recent pilot. So we know for 100% that stablecoins are a disruptive financial innovation. And the only pillars for that are blockchain hashgraph technology. And as we know, one of the most efficient ways of doing that is through Hedera. Currently, most of this liquidity is based within the DeFi markets. And because of that, it's largely dominated by the USD stablecoins, whether that's USDC, USDT, BUSD, whatever it might be, they have over 90% of the market share. I think it's 95% or something massive. But when we look at the institutions like Shihan Bank, like Standard Bank, we know that there are institutions outside of the US that are looking at stablecoins for something beyond DeFi. They're looking for it for international remittances. They're looking at it for bank-to-bank settlements. They're looking at it for all sorts of different use cases, which will then be picked up by fintechs and turned into, the next generation of payment apps or whatever it might be. But crucially there is that these countries are outside of the US, which would suggest that when these countries do come in, that USD dominance is going to drop, and whoever is front-running those countries is going to go up with those stablecoins. So whilst Hedera currently perhaps doesn't have the USDC liquidity or the USDT liquidity, we are positioning ourselves through our network of council, through our network beyond the council, like we saw with Cathay Bank, and with something like the Stablecoin Studio, to perfectly capture all of this liquidity when it comes out in these new countries with non-major coins, but as stablecoins. What that needs, I think, is A, the infrastructure, Hedera, the Hashgraph, the Stablecoin Studio, but B, the regulation alongside that. And so currently we're seeing a lot of the pro stablecoin regulation, again, coming from outside of the US. So you've got the Monetary Authority of Singapore, who've released their most recent framework. You've got Mika in the EU, who defined stablecoins and utility coins. You've got, Rishi Sunak in the UK, who's just brought over the first non-US A116Z office to the UK. He wants to become a crypto hub, as he said with his own words many a time. You've got Modi in India, who wants 500,000 new devs by 2030. Of course, they've got the Bharat Blockchain Yatra conference going on at the moment, and that's all outside the US. And then you look inside the US, and you've got PayPal putting on pressure, Visa putting on pressure, MasterCard putting on pressure. But crucially here, there is, I think, the regulation needs to come first, and then the tidal wave of innovation from these external countries. And what the stablecoin also enables, beyond making stablecoins an extremely efficient, cost-effective, time-efficient way of minting a stablecoin and managing it, the programmability of the Hedera smart contract service also enables issuers to be completely in line and adapt with the regulators if and when they regulate, almost in real time. So we can have stablecoins minted on Hedera that operate at the speed of the token service, i.e. 10,000 transactions a second currently, with the programmability of the Hedera smart contract service, so that issuers in the regions where regulation comes first, they can adapt, and Hedera is, in my opinion, and the opinion of many others, the best tech to capture that. So if I was to summarize everything I've just said, which is an extraordinary amount, I'm very sorry, it would be that in the future, the major stablecoin volume won't be coming from DeFi, which means a huge amount of potential stablecoin liquidity will be coming from non-major currencies in the forms of remittances, in the forms of fintechs in the regions, in the forms of bank-to-bank settlements. The Hedera Governing Council is perfectly situated to capture that liquidity alongside its network of other non-council members. The infrastructure is being built to capture that currently. That infrastructure is the Stablecoin Studio. The Stablecoin Studio will enable highly scalable stablecoins that can be pro-regulation, that meet the demand of regulation if and when it comes out, so that issuers can be as flexible as possible, more so than any other current offering on the market. On the whole, amazing job, Stablecoin Studio. Amazing job, Greg, who led that, I believe, from Swirls. Amazing job, Sabrina from the foundation, and Elaine. Amazing job, Hashgraph Association, led by Rob. A massive, massive cross-organizational effort to position Hedera as the primary network for this new liquidity as the market matures. And hopefully we see that killer dApp really emerge on Hedera. And I think this is the first instance of that we're seeing.
Well covered, Zep. I'm not sure how much more information we can get, but we did catch up with Rob Allen right there at 2049, and he had some great insights. Now, it is loud there. I hope you like 80s music, but I think you can hear him enough to be able to pull out the gems that he drops. So let's listen to Shark Bites. Look who's coming to us directly from Token 2049. How are things going over there, Rob?
Hey, Brandon. Yeah, we're here at Token 2049 in Singapore. We're expecting 10,000 people here today. And every single one of the staff has got the Hedera t-shirt. It's pretty incredible.
That is incredible. So, well, good
Kudos
luck
to Christian.
Yeah,
I
of
think
course,
that's
of course.
that's a-
But we're going to jump right into it because we just had some pretty big news come out. Rob, you're a payments guy. I'm sure you have some thoughts around the new Stablecoin Studio that was just announced. Can you give us your insights?
Yeah, absolutely. So, for those who've kind of been reading between the lines over the last couple of months, I've kind of referred to the Stablecoin Accelerator, I've referred to what Greg Scallard and the team have been doing. Today, we've launched the Stablecoin Studio on Hedera. This is a really big deal. So the Shinhan Bank pilot, the other three financial institutions that did the remittance pilot just last month were battle hardening this very product. And from today, anyone who wants to issue stablecoins can pick up the Hedera Stablecoin Studio and accelerate their ability to build stablecoins on the Hedera network, getting all of the benefits of Hedera itself, and bringing these stablecoins to market very, very quickly. We've got banks, we've got payments providers, we've got Web3 native businesses that are all endorsing this particular product. And after Guardian, it's probably the first proper product within that it's being launched out of the Hedera stable. So super excited about it.
It is exciting. So why is this an important initiative for the Hedera ecosystem?
But it really is very important. At a technical level, it demonstrates the underlying properties of Hedera, the Hedera token service and the Hedera smart contract service, and how these things can come together to be able to launch stablecoins. But actually, that's just for the techies amongst us in terms of accelerating this product for themselves into market. But from a wider Web3 space, we're seeing a massive surge in the last year of interest in stablecoins. There's a stablecoin bill going through Congress in the US. We've got the markets and crypto assets legislation in Europe. We've got UK becoming increasingly friendly on digital assets, especially asset-backed digital assets like stablecoins. We've got PayPal entering the stablecoin arena. This is going mainstream, and it's going mainstream very, very quickly. And probably for the first time, Hedera is hitting that wave exactly at the right time, just ahead of it. This enables payments providers to actually deliver stablecoins in a way that they hadn't previously been able to. And we're looking at consumer engagement use cases with stablecoins because we can do micropayments with them on Hedera, of course. The list of use cases we can now start applying these to is pretty much endless.
I got you. So one thing about Hedera, Hedera has the tools in place, and this is a new tool that they have in place, but doesn't have the liquidity in our stable coin markets yet. How do you see the stablecoin ecosystem developing in the future?
It's just a matter of utility. Liquidity on USDC on Hedera is very, very low. It's because there are no applications, no decentralized applications that have really embraced and adopted it yet. That is going to change. We're looking at a massive sea change from $100 billion in the total stablecoin market to, someone said yesterday at the launch of the stablecoin standard that I was at, about $1 trillion, so 10x within the next year or two. I mean, this surge is going to hit us really hard, and the regulatory friendliness of certain jurisdictions is going to drive that as well. So I see that Hedera is very well placed for these stablecoins to kind of be a route for this liquidity into the ecosystem. And then we've got the ability now to go cross-chain through the bridges. So we're kind of really set up and very, very kind of primed to take all of this new liquidity that's coming into the Web3 space.
Well, Rob, you're getting a little bit blown out there by the music, but I have one thing that I wanted to touch on. What are your thoughts on the DYOR Hashgraph Association partnership that was just announced at Envision 2023?
Yeah, this is a big deal. Another big deal from the Hashgraph Association, hot on the heels of the Indian Yatra, the blockchain Yatra that's going on at the moment. So DYOR is the kind of brand name for the Emirates Integrated Telecommunications Company. So it's basically the UAE's telco. And sorry about the music. They just pumped it. And what the Hashgraph Association is doing, or has done, is gone into a partnership agreement with DYOR to bring Web3 technologies, Hedera, to the United Arab Emirates. It's a big deal. And DYOR will effectively be a channel partner in that part of the world for Hedera to deliver a full range of infrastructural Hedera-based solutions. So we've got sustainability, we've got manufacturing, we've got telco itself, and smart cities. Because of course the Middle East and Dubai in particular is very, very focused on future tech and driving change. So Hedera will be at the heart of all of that now, in partnership with DYOR.
Well, Rob, I'm happy we were able to fit this in. It is loud over there, so I hope we can get this cleaned up. But I guess we'll see you next week.
Thanks very much, Brandon. Have a great week.
So, Zep, some really good conversations there around the Stablecoin Studio and the DYOR Hashgraph Association partnership. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Rob said that they're the biggest sort of telecoms provider in the whole of the UAE, which is extraordinary. When the Hashgraph Association has one of these big partnerships, you've got to pay attention. What was it? We had the orange one in Morocco, which is for the fintech innovation there. So blockchain Yatra, the most recent hackathon. And then now they're coming out with this partnership, which seems like they've really got their foot in the door in what is one of the most crypto-friendly regions, one of the most innovative regions in the world. And of course, for us to bring Hedera over there is fantastic. I saw Danny Eid put out a post, which was that one of their announcements have come out of it, which is for a team called AgNext. AgNext are basically a agri-food supply chain sort of use case, i.e. getting that extra traceability from the entire sort of life cycle of a product, of whether that's food, up to reaching sort of the supermarket or the store, so that consumers know exactly where their food is coming from. As we move into an age of more environmentally conscious buyers, I think this, of course, is a very important use case and one that we've seen sort of with fresh supply care as well in Australia. So it seems that we're seeing more of these initial blueprints being built out again. And I would think that the Hashgraph Association has probably gone to them and said, this is the success of Fresh Supply Co. This is the success of other supply chain use cases that we have. And now we've got this new product again. And it seems like we're going to have this sort of continued success where people take that blueprint, reiterate on it, and then develop it and bring it to Hedera. And we're seeing that again here. So very exciting that there's already something out there. And I'm sure it's going to be a very prosperous relationship between Hashgraph Association and DYOR.
Is that whether it's supply chain, whether it's cross-border payments, or any of the other use cases we have, I think these initial proof of concepts are going to end up being ubiquitous across these industries. And I'm also really happy to see these different regional focuses really starting to bear fruit, whether it's the APAC, whether it's the Middle East, whether it's in the UK, in your neck of the woods. We're really starting to see some traction across the board. All right, so we're going to shift gears here a little bit. We're going to get into karate combat. I had a really good conversation with Dane going over the entire fight. Of course, there's the up-only gaming aspect of karate combat, and all built on the Hedera network. We cover several of the fights that are going to be going on. Dane is one of the karate combat insiders. He's been with them for a really long time, and he is a student of these fights. So let's catch some of Dane's insights. So Dane, how excited are you for Karate Combat 41 this weekend?
Oh man, I am extremely excited. This marks another milestone for the Karate Combat story. It's going to be outdoors now for the first time, at least at this scale. So it's in the Dominican Republic. I've seen them. They're setting up their canopy in case it rains. So I hope all the fans bring their ponchos, but it's going to be a great one.
Yeah, it's pretty brave to do this during the middle of hurricane season, at the height of hurricane season, but it looks like the weather should be all right. But to start off, I'm just going to explain the Karate token and this up-only gaming. So one of the main verticals for Hedera is consumer engagement, and Karate Combat is taking that to the next level with this up-only gaming. You can think of the Karate token as a loyalty point, like an airline mile. It doesn't represent ownership, but with Karate Combat, there is no ownership. So if you want to go on that Karate Combat ride, this token is all there is. Now, Karate tokens have other utility, but it's mainly used for this up-only gaming. You can acquire the tokens through airdrops, or you can purchase them on the open market, and then you put them on the Karate app, which is really a wallet, a Hedera account. You place those tokens on the fighters that you think are going to win. If they do, you get more tokens. If you pick wrong, you don't lose tokens. So you simply just don't get more. Now, granted, this is all independent of the market value of the Karate token, and none of this is financial advice. Now, full disclosure, I did grab a chunk of Karate tokens. I've participated in this up-only gaming in Karate Combat 39 and Karate Combat 40, and it takes these already exciting fights to a whole new level. So I'm pretty much all in.
Oh, yeah.
I love this. But we're going to run through the 7 fights at the top of the card, focusing mainly on the implications for this up-only gaming. Does that sound all right?
It sounds great. It sounds excellent. I'm glad you've already participated and enjoyed it. I think this is something that anyone can do, and you only need, you could put one token down on a fight. So
sure,
you don't have to have 10,000 or 100,000 to have fun.
And that little bit of skin in the game definitely makes a difference. So the first fight that I want to talk about is the lightweight matchup between Lazar and Artur. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'm really excited about this one, Brandon. Like really, really excited. You've got Lazar Kukulicic, who's been sidelined for no real reason. He's had some visa issues, which is weird because he lives in Montenegro. I don't know why he wasn't able to get to the States, but hey, Dominican Republic to the rescue, and he's going to be showing up. And then another person who's been sidelined is Artur. That's because he's Russian, and I don't have to go into explaining why the Russians haven't been fighting in Karate Combat for a while. But again, Dominican Republic is not the United States. They have very different rules for sports travel and visa. And this guy, he is an athlete, and that's what he's here for. He's not here to spread the bad word about anything. So I'm glad they're both going to have this opportunity. I think this is an exceptional match, Brandon. I think this is an incredible match. Artur's debut was against Tommy Azuz. Azuz himself has become sort of this like savior figure in Karate Combat. He steps in on late notice to fight just about anybody. He's a tough kid. And Artur did a spinning back kick that landed on his chin. You don't see spinning back kicks land on people's chins. So Artur is quite a talent, and Lazar is famous for he lifted somebody up, ran up the pit wall, and slammed him down. So if you've seen that highlight, that was Lazar Kukulicic. I think this is an amazing match. I do think Lazar has more experience inside the pit. They've both been laid off for similar amounts of time, though, oddly. So, you got a 1-0 fighter against a 3-0 fighter. I'm going with Lazar. I think he's more well-rounded. I think that grappling toughness and grit is useful. And I also think that if you're living in Russia, there's a lot more on your mind besides your career right now. So I'm going with Lazar on that one.
That makes a lot of sense. So next up, we have Maximo and Moulet, and that one's at bantamweight. Now, Maximo had a terrific fight. He had a knockout, I believe, at Karate Combat 40. What do you think on this one?
Yeah, he finished Damian Villa, and Villa was looking at his best and sharpest when he got finished by Maximo. So I was very impressed by that victory for Maximo Nunes. Moulet, however, he has no wins in Karate Combat, but I've never really seen him lose, if that makes sense. He is tough, and he puts on a fight. He's fought the champion before, so he has as much experience as Maximo, just doesn't have the winning record that Maximo has. However, here's the big it factor for this one. Maximo Nunes is Dominican. So that's a home crowd advantage, to say the least. the excitement of that.
Sure.
He lives close by in Florida. It's an easy commute for him. Mulay's traveling across the world. Way more pressure on Mulay, oh dude, having that losing record, not having a karate combat win. This is a make or break fight for Mulay. I think if this was not in the Dominican Republic, I'd call this a pick'em. In other words, whoever you like, pick 'em. Put your karate tokens down on that guy. But because it is in the Dominican Republic, Maximo's going to have an edge.
You get your heart into it. Now, we've been talking about some of the smaller guys. Next up, let's go to a heavyweight matchup. We have a newcomer, right? Sam Alvey and Adam Ramos. How do you see this one panning out? We have somebody that's new, and I've seen in karate combat, sometimes newcomers, even if they're very talented, they can struggle.
That's right. And so when we call Sam Alvey a newcomer, he's only a newcomer to karate combat. He's had a lot of mixed martial arts fights. I don't know the count exactly, but he's had many, double digits. So I think, but like you said, being new to karate combat is being new. You know, it is a completely different rule set. There is a very different attitude toward grappling, different rules for grappling. Can't do any double leg takedowns. So this is going to be a new experience for him. Also, he's going up against a guy in Adam Rosas Ramos who lost his karate combat debut, but it was a close fight. I do believe it went to the Southern Victory round, which is one of my favorite parts about karate combat is that we have those. And it was a competitive fight that he had against a guy named Zakaria Bambucha, who these guys are true heavyweights. So I need to point out, Sam Alvey moved up from middleweight earlier in his career, went to light heavyweight, didn't get any wins at light heavyweight in the UFC. But UFC level competition, it doesn't get any tougher or better. Still, I think there's going to be a lot of casual viewers who are going to see the name Sam Alvey. They're going to recognize him, Smiling Sam. He's got a great personality. He's clearly a great guy. He does a podcast with Mac Malley, a friend of mine who still works at Karate Combat. And, you know, this guy's easy to like, but he's coming into somebody else's territory. This is Karate Combat. And like they say, we don't play karate. So Alvey has a lot of losses. He's fighting at a very heavy weight class. I think Alvey lost. Well, he did not win because they had some draws in there, but he did not win any of his final 9 fights in the UFC. He has a comeback victory out in some minor league, but Karate Combat's not a minor league. I'm going with what I think will be an underdog on the Up Only Gaming. We have to see because while we're having this conversation, the gaming is not open yet. So we have to wait and to see, like, is my prediction correct that people will flood into the known name? If they do, super big opportunity to win way more tokens by betting on Ramos.
All right. And once we do get those odds, we're going to get some more information on that. I think you put something out Friday or something along those lines that you'll be able to give us some more information?
Yeah, on Thursday, Thursday evening Eastern time in the United States, you'll have something. So by Friday, the information will be good and out there. We'll know betting odds from the cash betting, and we'll know more about the Up-Only Gaming odds, because once the ability to put your token bets in is unlocked, then you get to see the lines.
Sure.
You know, so, and that's super useful to making your decision. So even if I say super clear, you got to go Ramos, super clear, but then you see that 99% of people picked him, the returns are going to be very, very tiny. So yeah, then you might want to go for Alvey.
All right. So the next one we have up here is Gabrielle and George. That's a welterweight bout. What do you see happening here?
Yeah, this is a good fight. This is a really good fight. Another wild card factor with the home crowd advantage for George or Jorge, depending on if you want to go with the Latin version.
Sure.
But yeah, Perez is Dominican, and one of the interesting things, you know, people like to do what's called in MMA, they call it MMA math. Okay, so we'll call it karate math. So what that means is, okay, Jorge Perez fought James Vick, who's UFC veteran, talented guy, and won. Gabriele Serra fought James Vick and lost. Ipso facto, Perez can beat that. Throw all that out the window, okay?
I used to do the same thing in wrestling. It's like I beat this guy by 2 points and he beat this guy by 3 points. I should be able to beat this. That never works. It never works. It's like they say, styles make fights, right?
Bingo. Styles make fights. And in this case, you know, I look at Sarah Chera. I look at him like a sharp boxer, which is kind of unusual in karate. He's really crispy with his hands. Perez, a bit more well-rounded, but one thing where Perez lacks, he is a bit of a slow starter, whereas I think Chera is a fast starter. And I think that makes for a really nice balance. I think you have a more well-rounded fighter in Perez, frankly, and I think you have a better boxer, faster starter in Chera. It is a pick'em. You may want to wait that. The guy's Dominican. They're in the Dominican Republic. That's a big factor. His family and friends are probably going to be there. But I think this is a really competitive match. I think you go with whatever your gut is on this one.
Okay, that's fair enough. We'll take a look at the odds when they come out and see where everything falls as far as the up-only gaming and try to make our decision from there. All right,
Smart.
We have another couple big guys, Elvin Agaev and Antonio, again at heavyweight. What do you think we're going to see here?
Oh man, we're gonna see a knockout here. Somebody's getting their lights put out. I don't know who. I will say that Agaev, he is, in what we've seen in his Karate Combat debut, they're both 1-0 in Karate Combat. I think Elvin Agaev, no relation to this man, Rafael Agaev.
There's a big height difference there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, maybe a cousin twice removed is possible. Sure. But I believe they have trained with each other. I do think they are both from Azerbaijan. Elvin Agaev is willing to trade, willing to make it exciting, and that's dangerous in the heavyweight division. I think Antonio Arroyo, he's a bit more conservative in that regard. Definitely have seen him throw down, but he was on the giving end of it only. He had the good fortune of injuring his opponent's ankle, Cody Jerabic's ankle, when they fought, and so Cody couldn't really move. He couldn't put any weight down, and Antonio made him pay, let me tell you. So I think styles here are very different. I think Elvin's going to try to make it a dogfight, and Antonio is going to try to not let that happen. I have an interesting bias on this one, Brandon. So I think you're familiar with the Karateka NFT project, which.
Sure.
So I have one of my Karateka pit fighters is Elvin Agaev. So I'm going to go with Elvin because it'll lift my score in the Karateka community if I get the win with him. So I think your results may vary. Go with whoever you like here, but Antonio does have a lot more experience. He has MMA experience. So I think the smart money, the smart tokens are going to be on Arroyo, but I'm going to go with Agaev because sometimes you just got to have fun.
Okay, that's fair enough.
It's up only.
Sure,
So
sure. But it's opportunity lost, possibly. You know, you have to
it
think about
be.
it both ways.
That's
All right.
right.
So what about the co-main event between Tim Ha and Delvis? What do you think we're going to see there?
So what's cool about this fight is this fight could not really be a co-main event outside of these circumstances where we have one of the most viral fighters in karate combat history in Davis Ferreras. He has millions and millions of views off the strength of his personality inside the pit. Sure. I mean, the tongue wag heard around the world. You gotta look that video up. Yep. I mean, it's hysterical and it's authentic. That's him. He's baiting his opponents. So.
Get in their head.
But his record is not stellar. It's 50-50. He's an exciting fighter. He's a really talented guy, but he is susceptible to brawling, as we've talked about it for a few of these fights now. And brawling is not always conducive to a solid or clear-cut victory. Sure. This fight, however, was made for him. You might think that this entire card was made for him, because I know Only LARPing happens to be a huge Davis Ferreras fan. And Only LARPing, of course, one of the big wigs of the Karate Token build out and the brain, this is a brainchild of Only LARPing in many ways. So I think he pulled his weight and said, no, Davis Ferreras, he needs something built for him to shine. And he does deserve it. But with a 50-50 record, you usually don't get this. Now, they're putting him up against Tim Ha, who is 0-1. You've got this super experienced guy who the weight of this card is behind him. I think it would be a huge upset if he lost. I would go with Davis Ferreras, the favorite.
Okay, that's fair enough. And finally, of course, we had the main event. Where do you see this
Yes.
one going?
Okay, there's so much story in the main event, which is Owen Chelmia, our champion from Ireland, and he is fighting another Russian guy who's been sidelined for a while in Mirzabek Tebuev. So you may think, well, the sidelined guy's got a lot of ring rust. He's going up against the champ. That's not a good recipe for victory. However, Chelmia has also had his story of kind of being sidelined. We have this crazy story where they announced that Chelmia lost on the live broadcast for a fight that the judges actually said he won.
Yes.
It was due to a technical error. So Jesus Lopez literally went home to his home country of Peru from Florida with the championship belt. And he still thinks he's the champion. So they booked that rematch, but Jesus did not make weight for the rematch. And so how can you be the champion if you can't make weight in the weight class you're supposed to be champion of? So undisputed champ is Owen Chelmia, and he's got a record of 5-0 to prove it. But this previous fight, the guy injured himself, and the fight before that, he injured his hand. And so the story of his title defenses aren't one of domination. It's one of close, competitive fights, but being the more endurant man, being the tougher guy has led him to victory. Being able to get down to size and be a professional has led to Owen's victory. Not to say that he's not an extreme talent. He most certainly is. But Tebuev handily beat Jesus Lopez. Handily beat him. And Jesus is tough, man. He's a tough fight for anyone in the world. But Tebuev handily beat him. And so, you know, he's been sidelined, but he had a clear-cut victory. He's fought a who's who. Mirzabek was a weight class higher, and he fought both of the champions of that weight class. So didn't get to become champion, moved down, and had more success. This is a tough fight. I am certainly closer in real life. I'm closer to Owen. He's been champion for so long. When I started working for Karate Combat, I no longer do, but when I started working for Karate Combat, he was the kid, the rising star. And, you know, you put a little bit of emotion into things like that. So I'm definitely going with Owen Chelmia for this one. But, you know, Tebuev is a very tough customer, He's talented. He's also extremely tough. He famously had his skull fractured in a fight that he won. Is that not mind-blowing?
Yeah,
Exactly. I mean, and recovered, got the bill of health cleared. You know, a lot of people would have been like, I'm retired. Like, I fractured my skull. I'm out. I'm done, Brandon. But he's back and had a win. He has already fought since then, so he beat Jesus Lopez after that happened. So this is such a good fight on paper. I think I would recommend you go with your heart. You go with you know who you want. You really leverage that up only gaming aspect here, and you go, you know what, it's up only. Come on, kid, you know, or however you go. So I hope I've given you enough information to make some good choices on your own. I'll probably be a little bit more aggressive once the betting odds come out, because then I can really say, oh, no brainer, you got to go underdog here, or you know, the favorite can't lose. So, but right now it's like I just want to give you all, you know, a way to understand these fights. I know a lot of people are going to encounter maybe all of these fighters for the first time when they're doing their up only gaming for the first time. So I hope I've been a help, Brandon. It's not easy. It's not easy being in my position.
Great insights. One thing that we did notice last time is the odds kind of that set up around up only gaming seemed like they were almost more accurate than the betting odds. So you really never know. But it's going to be interesting to see what comes out. Dane, is there anything else you'd like to pass on before we let you go?
No, I just want you all to really tune into the live broadcast, because it's such a good time, and make a night out of it. Invite your friends over, the same you would for a big boxing match or a big UFC event. You know, Karate Combat has all of the tools it needs to be a major sport, and I think it just needs your attention to give it a chance. So if you've been looking at it on the side because it's this interesting crypto thing, like, I get it, but you need to check it out firsthand. You need to watch it. You don't have to fly to the Dominican Republic. I won't be there this time. I was at all the others. But you do have to just Give it a chance to wow you. That's how I came to Karate Combat, Brandon. I saw it on YouTube and I was like, what in the world is this? This is amazing. It looks unique. The production is a masterclass. The people producing this are just unbelievable. They're artists in their own right. So don't I know a lot of your viewers are here for the Hedera and for the HBAR. I know it. And power to you all, and I wish you so much success, but go watch this on Saturday. Give it a shot.
You talked about UFC, and after watching the fights at Karate Combat 40, this takes a backseat to nobody. It is absolutely unbelievable. But Dane, thank you so much for swinging by and giving us all this fantastic insights.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, and I hope I'll see you again for 42.
We'll do it again for sure. Thanks again.
See y'all.
All right, a couple quick updates for Karate Combat. The Lazar Artur fight has been postponed to the next event. Elvin Agaev had some visa issues, so he's going to be replaced. There is still going to be a replacement for Antonio, but you can catch all the updates. Keep an eye on Dane Curley, his Twitter, and he's going to put out a full rundown of all the odds and everything that you need to know for Karate Combat 41. I'm going to be down there. I'm going to try to get some tweets out there as well. The other thing is, if you want to set up your Karate Combat app, or if you want to add any karate tokens, do that before 6 p.m. on Thursday, because 6 p.m. Eastern, because that's when the snapshot's going to be taken. And if you don't have your tokens in the app at that time, you're not going to be able to participate, at least with the tokens that you're trying to add or something along those lines. All right, Zep, it's time for a hard left turn. We're going to get into our Guardian ecosystem with dMRV. There's been a lot of buzz around this. It's been overshadowed possibly by some of the other stuff that's going on, but can you give us a quick rundown?
Yeah, so to kick it off, Cointelegraph came out with this article which basically stated that dMRV, i.e. digital measurement, reporting and verification, is a killer sort of use case for blockchain technology, or at least a big one that blockchain can facilitate and augment better so than any other technology, perhaps actually the Hashgraph rather than blockchain if we're going to be pedantic. But within that, they mentioned Timeless, which is one of our partners. They mentioned them as one of the critical teams within Web3 that is moving towards this goal of dMRV, i.e. bringing traditional measuring, reporting, verification into the digital world so that A, it's more efficient, but B, you can have these sort of audit trails, especially when you integrate it with something like the Hedera Guardian. And so dMRV is at the foundation of the carbon registries that we mentioned before with Carbonbase a couple of weeks ago, with Vero, with Gold Standard. It is essential for them to modernize. Currently they all use measurement, reporting, verification, i.e. making sure that everything's being measured in a correct way, reported in a correct way, and then verified in a correct way by the auditors, third parties, regulators, whoever it might be. But for this to be modernized, we need the dMRV part. And so the Global Blockchain Business Council, alongside the Interwork Alliance, which was set up by founding institutions like Microsoft, a massive name there, they've come out with their second sort of dMRV framework. The Guardian got a massive feature in. Anya, Jonathan, Wes, big contributors to that paper, and so much so that the Hedera Guardian sort of took the front row seat really as critical infrastructure or the best tech to enable this new form of dMRV for the carbon markets. And so carbon registries need dMRV, dMRV needs the Hedera Guardian to be the best version of itself, and then the dMRV itself needs something called an environmental methodology. And that is basically a way of tailoring each carbon project, each carbon offsetting project, understanding what their unique benefits or the opposite are, and then measuring them, reporting them, and verifying them in the correct way. And so Hedera Guardian is not only the best tech for dMRV, but it's also the biggest in the world, the biggest open source repository of environmental methodologies. So the Hedera Guardian not only has the value proposition of having the best tech, a technology that can facilitate all parts of the MRV process, but also it's now the biggest pool of the methodologies that sit under dMRV. And also, of course, we've got the Governing Council itself, which are all looking to leverage things like carbon credits for their own ESG goals. So I think, we mentioned stablecoins as a killer DApp. I think that's the killer DApp perhaps for the consumer, the retailer who's using their fintech app or going to their bank, whoever it might be. And then you're going to have on the more sort of corporate side, the carbon markets and so on and so forth, which might be the killer app over there, at least in this sort of early stage of Web3. So Hedera is incredibly positioned, I think, for two of these markets, and the Hedera Guardian got a big call out this week from the GBBC, the IWA, and of course Cointelegraph. So a really big news week across our ecosystem, and very excited to see where the Sustainable Impact Fund takes us further.
Our Guardian ecosystem is definitely hitting on all cylinders. And just an acronym check, we talk about all kinds of acronyms on here. And dMRV is digital measurement, reporting, and verification, just for anybody that wasn't sure. All right, so the next thing we want to cover, we've been hearing a lot about BCW, whether it's with Archaea, whether it's with Hashport, with their new oracles, but they've also just acquired Hashgraph.Name. We talked about this last week, but I wanted to catch up with their team to get the full insights. So I caught up with AJ and Xander from that team to give some insights into exactly what they're doing and how they want to expand in the future. So listen in. Xander, AJ, welcome.
Hey, really excited to be here.
Hey, Brandon, thanks for having us.
Yeah, sure. It's my pleasure. AJ, to start, why did BCW decide to move into the Hedera naming and domain space?
So that's a good question. The reason why we moved into the Hedera space is quite simple. We saw a large discrepancy between the custom domains that can provide on the network and the value and utility available today. So we want to help projects and communities on Hedera enable their users to build an identity, a reputation. We also want to help corporates to manage their user accounts. BCW itself, we're a venture studio and enterprise consulting firm in the Web3 space, and a majority of our work revolves around building infrastructure to power utility in this space. We've been involved with the Hedera ecosystem for a long time, running council nodes, building ecosystem utility. We're also the team that built and operate the only interoperability portal of Hedera, Hashport, as you all may know, and are one of the 9 validators. By the time this video is aired, also side note, you will also hear a big update about Hashport's growing services. Apart from that, we're also the team that brought Archaea, the infrastructure as a service provider, to the Hedera ecosystem. We work closely with the foundations as well as many of the enterprise companies that are actually building use cases on Hedera. So another thing that we've worked on as well is that we built the first and only auto compounding solution for HBAR staking services for qualified custodians. So with all of that, you kind of see that our mission is to bring enhanced value to the community by creating utility for the Hedera names to interact with. So for precious ecosystem names that have the type of on-chain value that you're accustomed to in the ecosystem, that's what we're here to bring, and that's our mission. So we're really excited to be here, and that's kind of where we stand.
Well, you certainly have the resources necessary to make Hedera domain successful. So, Xander, I'm going to go to you next. What value do you see a BCW-run Hashgraph.Name adding to the Hedera community?
Yeah, so our vision for Hashgraph.Name is to bring newfound simplicity and trust when acting on Graph. So with custom domains and our upcoming integrations, we aim to have the experience feel more familiar, like that of Web 2. This will ultimately help to accelerate onboarding and adoption of accounts into the ecosystem, while at the same time harnessing the power and the benefits of the Hedera public network on the back end. So today we are roughly 3.5 million wallets, and it's our mission to sort of grow that tenfold over the coming years.
It's a good goal to have. So how do you envision the platform and the domains themselves being used moving forward?
Yeah, so we envision this as sort of our roadmap. And our roadmap has 3 categories in it, which is visual, performance, and utility. So right off the bat, we'll be improving visual and performance aspects of the platform, making buying, extending, and viewing names easier than ever. In addition, in terms of performance, we plan to leverage Archaea to ensure reliability and uptime, as well as to incorporate the developer tools to build out new functionality, yielding additional utility for holders, and to also increase the speed of throughput, searchability, and viewability of existing metadata on these domains. So visually, we already see a new look on the website, which we published just last week, and allows viewing of the domains a lot easier. And on target for December, we will also unveil our full rebrand. So this would include a full UI UX overhaul for the dashboard, integrations across the Hedera ecosystem, the release of open source libraries for building out custom use cases, and much more. So we'll also be revamping aspects of the system and its functionality for alignment with HIP 791. On the utility side, in early November, we are looking to have NFT marketplace integrations. They will allow holders to trade their domains on secondary markets with all the full functionality and features that are already supported. We also plan to expand support by using Hashpack and aim to expand access through multiple wallets. Blade is also one of those that we're looking at. And our long-term goal ultimately is to provide social and security related functionality for both the general public as well as corporations, provide transparency and increase community engagement, and also to, sort of open source parts of the HNS codebase. By doing so, we hope that we can see a lot more expansion, outside of what we can do, but to also see what the community has to offer as well. And additionally, we will be publishing a very extensive set of documentation and learning materials on our websites at docs.hashgraph.name, as well as Hashgraph.Name itself, so that dApp developers and ecosystem partners will be able to integrate HNS quickly and effectively to bring HNS to the growing Hedera ecosystem.
That's one heck of a vision, one heck of a roadmap. So finally, AJ, how do you plan on driving adoption and awareness?
So for this, I think partnerships is the way to go. So the way we see it in the near future, we will see Hashgraph.Name forge new partnerships with several Hedera ecosystem dApps, corporate services, all with the common goal of making digital identities and Web3 wallet usage as user-friendly and straightforward as possible. We're now working with multiple council members on how to utilize our naming service for their use cases. So we're expanding the domains we support. For example, we already have .boo, .cream, .hedera, and .hbar domains. Soon you will also be able to see domains from other Hedera dApps. So let's take a step back. Let's take an example, for instance. So you could have the TLD for, say, .twigital. So we're excited to be here. And so Brandon, we're gifting you a .twigital TLD, and we have just created Twigital domains for you and the team. So you will now have Brandon.twigital, Jesse.twigital, Twigital.twigital, and we're really excited to work with you to grow naming in your dApp. So that's something that we've done as an example, and that's what we want to expand to the ecosystem, to the vibrant community, create more value for our users through partnerships with dApps and infrastructure providers. And that's how we plan to enrich the community. So when we entered this space, it's been about a week, we had a lot of engagement from our community, which speaks for itself on the value that the naming service offers. So our focus is, how do we grow that? How do we make it more vital, right? So we appreciate as well just being here, and we have a special promotion as well for those who are watching and purchase their domain name or renew existing one during our September special, and they tweet out the purchase and what they are excited about in the Hedera ecosystem, tagging Hashgraph.Name and the HBAR poll. Then you can randomly pick 10 lucky winners, and we will DM the winners and credit the amount of their purchase in HBAR. So that's something, this is the start of a lot of exciting stuff for us. So yeah, we're really excited to announce this. We're excited to come up with many partnerships, and we really appreciate, being here.
Well, thank you so much. There was actually a community member that grabbed twigital.hbar, so I got that this weekend, and I extended it using your promotion for another 10 years, so I'm excited about that. The .twigital is really cool too, because we want to work with, small business owners that are taking their physical objects, whether they're artisans, whether they're craftspeople, and taking those physical objects and tokenizing them, and they could kind of set up their own shops around .twigital domains, so that's fantastic. So again, thank you so much for joining us today, and good luck.
Thank you. Thank you for letting us come on, and we hope to come on again in the next 1 or 2 months with our rebrand and exciting updates.
Thank you so much.
So it was great to hear from that team, but I want to hear about everything that BCW is doing and their grand vision, because it seems like they're starting to build one. All right, so the next thing I wanted to get into is something we covered a long time ago, and that's Third Act. Now, they're trying to tokenize things that are important in the entertainment space. And the thing that I want to touch on here is they're actually tokenizing some collectibles around the Da Vinci Code, the Dan Brown books and the movies that followed. Now, Third Act has been fairly quiet to this point, but it just goes to show that just because some of our projects might be quiet, that doesn't mean they're not building and they're not progressing. So here's a great example of that. Next up, we're going to have a convention of our own at Hello Future Live. That's going to be October 6th through the 8th. You can pick up tickets right now. We're going to be covering that more and more as we get closer to that event. I'm going to be there. Pretty much all of the big HBAR variants are going to be there. I'm going to be on a few of the panels. I'm going to be talking to everybody there. We're going to have some great projects. So definitely go check that out and get prepared. Get your travel, get your hotels, all that kind of stuff, because it's going to be an amazing event, including Manson Lehman. And Zeb, the final thing that I want to cover before we get into network analysis is from Health Ready. Of course, they're working with Acor, and all of this was highlighted by Coinbase when they were trying to highlight things that are being built in the DLT space outside of speculation and all that kind of stuff. So do you have any insights into what was announced last week?
I think the first thing to sort of identify in terms of the value of a use case in healthcare data is that healthcare data is up to 50 times more valuable than financial data. And because of that, it has to be approached in an incredibly secure way, but also in a way that empowers the person who that data represents to use that data as they wish. If they want to put themselves into clinical trials, they should be able to. If they want to make that information discoverable, they should be allowed to. And if they want to move that data from somewhere to somewhere else, so A to B, they should be able to know that that's done in an incredibly secure way. And so Health Ready is kind of hitting on all three cylinders here. So not only are they using the Hedera consensus service to enable the verification of patient consent to access this healthcare data, to prove its authenticity and so on, but they're also using the Hedera token service through the creation and the issuance of the HR token to actually incentivize these patients to put their data forward. So this incentivization, basically what it helps is that in the current healthcare climate, across that industry, there are extremely rare diseases where they don't have much data on for things like clinical trials. But if you can incentivize these patients or enable them to put their data forward into these trials and make sure that data is, sent across incredibly securely, it means that these data pools of research can open up much bigger than they could before. And when you open up that data pool, say on a global level, you get a global participation of patients. You can have much more research going on, and hopefully a lot more breakthroughs can be made leveraging that data, studying that data. And so Health Ready really here are, I think, at the start of what will be a very prosperous use case on Hedera. I think Aberdeen's Duncan Moore actually came out in Max Walker-Williams' interview and said that he believes that healthcare data on-chain will be one of the biggest things that comes out of blockchain.
So just another industry to put on top of the stack. Healthcare, we're excelling there as well. Good to see. Let's go ahead and get into some network analysis. All right, as far as transaction volume, we were humming along at about 1.5 thousand transactions per second, but that's come down. It's usually because Atma.io is resetting something. I'm sure it's going to be back before too long, but we did see over the past 24 hours a max TPS of 7,221. All of this, of course, while maintaining a time to consensus still down at 3.8 seconds. And we've been seeing some really good account creation as well, Zep, right?
Yeah, so in the last week, we've seen nearly 90,000 new accounts made. There was a spike over the 3 days before this of about 30K, 28K a day. What was it, 2 weeks ago when we saw that massive influx, maybe a few weeks ago, that was going to be us chilling out for a bit. But of course, the account creations come back with a vengeance. And we're actually at, what are we now? 3.6 million account, 3,631,000. So that's a huge amount of accounts being created in the last year alone. Of course, that trajectory looks like it's only going to continue as more dApps come online.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Looking at the HTS fungible tokens, Karate is in the top spot. Wrapped HBAR is in number 2, followed by Dovu. And then we have energy trade token Sauce. And that, of course, is the native token for Saucer Swap. We have Nada token. Nada is the company responsible for one of our most successful mobile games, that's Slime World. Then we see USDC, Heli, and Lil token round out the top 10. Moving down to our NFTs, Trailblazer tokens take the top 2 spots. Now, both of those are from Road Code. And Road Code also has RC Access in the top 10. Earthlings is making a good showing with their land, animal, and backpack NFTs, all again in the top 10. We also see the Hashgraph naming service, 2 Karateka, and of course, Karateka is the karate combat themed game. We have 2 Karateka tokens in the top 10, and Hangry Barboons rounds out that list. All right, Zeb, do you have any other thoughts on NFTs this week?
Yeah, I think this week was the week for Hangry Barboons, actually. They led the volume surge on Sentience, which is one of our NFT marketplaces, and actually made Hedera's NFT volume the biggest gainer on StockTwits, I think, yesterday. A massive shout out to the team there. You know, Hangry's been doing great stuff both on Hedera, also on Bitcoin ordinals, and then even with the token gating stuff that we saw with patches. So a real innovator within our ecosystem, and it's great to see Hangry get the spotlight there. Alongside that, we had, you know, legends of the past. You had them on last week. We had the announcement this week, and they've got the Clio first legend NFT coming out over the next few weeks, I believe. And so that will enable you to be part of the Council of Legends, almost like a DAO-like structure, vote on certain things, vote where certain tokens go, where the LOP token goes, vote on rewards based on battle rewards from in the game, and so on. So it's one to have as a player. It gives you a lot of power within the ecosystem of the game. And yeah, great to see that that's going to be coming out soon.
And it seems like Earthlings, their NFTs, as far as their land plots, that went really well. I know pretty much everybody who had the whitelist and everything else, they got their land plots. I got 2 of them, so I'm looking forward to that. And like was mentioned a few weeks ago, they have utility beyond just being able to build on them. If you have 2 plots on different sides of the continent, they're all going to be in Europe initially, but you can travel from one to the other without using some of their transportation mechanisms like the airships and everything else. So they do have some real utility in the game beyond just building. All right, with that, let's go ahead and get into some DeFi. Taking a look at DeFi Llama, not including state or liquid staking, the total value locked in the Hedera DeFi ecosystem is just under $33 million. Saucer Swap taking most of that with over $28 million, but HeliSwap is making a move a bit with a TVL of $4.2 million. The farming rewards on some of Saucer Swap's popular trading pairs stands at 6% for HBAR HBAR-X, 26% on HBAR Sauce, 33% on HBAR USDC, and over 60% on HBAR Karate as people pull their liquidity getting ready for KC41. Over on HeliSwap, HBAR HBAR-X is at 4%, 77% on HBAR Heli, 28% on HBAR USDC, and 27% on HBAR Karate. Taking a look at the crypto and HBAR markets, sitting at 26,700, Bitcoin has had a good week, up 2% on the day and 3% on the week. HBAR is doing even better, up 5.5% on the day and 4% on the week, and at the time of recording is sitting at 5.1 cents. As mentioned at the beginning of the video, there has been a few positive catalysts, but the Bithumb listing is probably the most responsible. Still, at this phase of the market, as we round the bottom, good news isn't going to have a huge impact, but it should pay off significantly when the market turns up in earnest. I'm hoping we've flipped 5 cents to support, and I'll be looking to 5.4 to 5.5 cents for resistance. All right, Zep, that's pretty much all we have. Is there anything else you'd like to pass on?
Yeah, well, we heard alluded to over the last couple of weeks, Rob Nodal, Rob Allen, Sharky Rob, and Elaine Song from the Foundation speak about TradFi coming on chain, and Token 2049 is bringing that vision to reality. You know, we've got the Stablecoin Studio, which is making it easier than ever for council members, for our network of institutions, for fintechs to create stablecoins on Hedera, on one of the most efficient ledgers in the world, to drive mainstream adoption of stablecoins, especially with the regulatory component that we mentioned. Alongside that, FIS, the world's biggest payment processor, is now using the Hedera consensus service for proof of reserve. If stablecoins want to maintain a competitive edge, if USDC wants to maintain its position as the most secure, the most audited, the most dependable USD stablecoin, they're going to have to use that as much as possible. So I really think we can see a vision in the future whereby the Hedera consensus service is almost a trust layer for these stablecoins as they come through. And this perfectly positions us at the intersection of traditional finance and blockchain technology. We really are at the front of this. We're leading the charge. We've got all the infrastructure to lead that charge. And now we've got the studio to make sure that it is as frictionless as possible. So I really think stablecoins, the theme this week, traditional finance, the theme this week. And of course, we're seeing Hedera perfectly position itself for that.
Well, what I'm seeing, Zep, is a lot of times in the past, whether it was DeFi or NFTs, we've followed some of the other platforms out there. Now we're taking pole position, and we're taking pole position in several industries, and industries that can provide use cases that could be absolutely massive for our platform. So it's exciting to see. Besides that, I want to go into some of the things we're going to have next week. If you have any questions about those stablecoins, 8 a.m. on Tuesday, we're going to have a Twitter space on it. Now, I think we've fixed our technical issues we've seen over the past couple of weeks, so I think we should be in pretty good shape there. We're also going to have Rob Allen on again next week. I know we had a short Shark Bites this week and we didn't answer any questions, but make sure to get your questions down there in the comments because I know we're going to hit it hard next week. I'd like to get the team from BCW on again to talk about some of their integrations as well. And of course, this weekend, Karate Combat 41. Definitely participate. It shouldn't be long. If you are watching this before 6 p.m. Eastern on Thursday, make sure that you get all that set up before that snapshot is taken. That's pretty much all we got. We'll see you next week.